Right guys, we have just had a seriously massive Mullen Automotive pump. David Michery has finally spoken and retail investors have gone crazy. Today, MULN has seen more trading volume in just 1 hour than most listed stocks see in weeks. In this video, I will look at what David is doing, what is happening right now, and what can be expected. Welcome back to the channel. This video is a little bit longer than usual, so I'm keeping this intro very short. If you like my content and the information that I bring you, then all I ask is that you give this video the thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. I'm aiming to get 500 likes on this video, help me make that happen. Although I have been correct about Mullen right from the very beginning, I want to remind everyone to always do your own due diligence and point out that I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Now let's get into it. So guys, David Michery has finally spoken. We have just had a letter to shareholders from David Michery, so I will go through this first and then I will point out some of the most important details. So the company has received numerous requests to respond to the ongoing decline of our stock. Many of the communications have been addressed to me personally with less than kind and sometimes threatening statements. As CEO of this company, I take all shareholders' concerns seriously. One of my primary responsibilities is to execute the company's business plan, and as evidenced by multiple prior communications to the public, the company continues to make significant strides in that regard. I will summarize some of this at the end of the statement. Now, first of all, this is very serious that David Michery is receiving threatening statements, and although this is something that I do not agree with, I can understand shareholders' frustrations. Like many people blame David Michery for Mullen's decline in the first place. Many promises have been made by the CEO and not many of these have been followed through on. In fact, I'd safely say that pretty much everything that has been promised from Mullen over the past 18 months has not come to fruition. And this is reflected in the share price very obviously, going from around $16 when the company first went public through its reverse merger, down to today's less than $1, and that's after 2 reverse splits for a cumulative 225 for one. So there's an awful lot of people who have lost a ton of money, and a lot of them point the finger of blame directly at CEO David Michery. And although he says here that the primary responsibility is to execute Mullen's business plan, Mullen have performed shockingly over the past 18 months. In fact, at times it looks like the only plan that Mullen have is to literally issue shares, dilute stockholders, and award bonuses to its management. Anyways, moving on. I am very disappointed by the performance of our stock. As I have previously publicly stated, I do not believe the trading price of our stock even closely resembles the company's actual value. And I will speak more about this in a few minutes. I will look at what this company's actual value should be, why I do not agree with David Michery at all, and why his words cannot be taken seriously in this regard. It is evident that regardless of meeting significant corporate milestones, i.e. vehicle production completion within projected timelines, stock traders continue to place downward pressure on the stock, causing it to fall. Now, one of the main reasons why the stock is falling is because dilution is constant. Like David Michery has said here, they have met significant corporate milestones. Vehicle production, projected timelines. This is the company that had projected that they were going to have the Mullen 5 on the road. This is a company that had said they had numerous contracts signed for the sale of their vans, for the sale of their commercial vehicles. This is the company that said last year that they had a deal done with a Fortune 500 company. They were going selling thousands of vehicles. None of this has come to fruition. None of it. I will talk a little bit more about this in a moment, but let's continue with this letter. I previously announced that the company engaged Share Intel and other parties to investigate what I suspect to be unlawful trading practices in our stock. We are assembling all the data received to date and should have something to announce in the coming days. I am extremely frustrated that the hard work of Mullen's dedicated team and the significant momentum and successes achieved to date are overshadowed by the unrealistic value attributed to our stock. The company and I have demonstrated our commitment to the success of our initiatives by purchasing its stock through the previously announced share buyback program. I have also personally recently purchased stock, demonstrating my unwavering confidence in our company. This is something that I am going to come back to in just a moment because this is so important. David Michery has actually, in the past week, went and purchased stock himself personally on the open market for the very first time. But again, this is something that cannot be taken seriously, and I'm going to highlight the figures involved so that I can communicate just how much of a token gesture this is. This is not material at all. This is complete and utter fluff. I remain committed to executing the company's business plan and using all measures at our disposal to eliminate any unlawful trading practices in our stock. So here are some of the recent highlights of company success. Guys, if you're enjoying the content, smash the thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I cover a lot of MULN content, and I look at a lot of other companies too. So the company had cash balances of $227.4 million as of June 2023. The net cash used in operating activities was $113 million, and net cash used in investing activities for 9 months was $107 million, primarily consisting of the ELMS acquisition. For the 9 months ended June 30th, Mullen raised $364 million in net cash provided by financing activities. So let's now look at the real figures when we look at the financial statements that were released just last week. So looking here at the balance sheet, we can see that Mullen Automotive has total assets of $559 million and have total liabilities of $208, which means that they have total stockholder equity of $351 million. So if you were to look at Mullen Automotive and just their baseline figures, you would say that this company is worth at least $351 million, and therefore it's undervalued at its current valuation of about $150 million. But look a little bit deeper at the numbers and it all starts to unravel. $92 million here of goodwill, which is worthless. If you follow my channel, I've spoken about goodwill many times. This is the price that you pay for an asset above what it's actually worth. Goodwill literally has no real value, and this goes along with another major asset of Mullen, which is intangible assets. Now, intangible assets are extremely hard to put an actual valuation on, especially the type of intangibles that Mullen has. For anyone who has been following Mullen Automotive for long enough, you will remember that when this figure was first agreed upon in the audited full-year financial statements, there was a huge disclaimer from the auditors noting that the valuation of intangibles is very subjective and relies heavily on management assumptions when considering valuation metrics. These are the very same auditors that as soon as the accounts were published, no longer wanted to be associated with Mullen and resigned from the audit engagement. Now, in my opinion, the easiest way to find the real value of the stock here is to remove assets that do not have any real world value. So removing intangibles and goodwill alone removes about $200 million off the total asset value, and in my opinion, gives a real stockholder equity of about $150 million. Again, this isn't actually that bad. At least the company isn't in negative equity, which is a huge positive. But that is where the positives end. The next thing that should be pointed out here is pivotal, and this is something that everyone needs to be aware of. This is one of the most important lines on the whole balance sheet. Down here, just above total stockholder equity, we have paid-in capital and accumulated deficit. To date, there has been paid-in capital of nearly $2 billion into Mullen Automotive that has resulted in absolutely nothing. An accumulated deficit of nearly $1.7 billion. And this is for a company that has produced next to nothing. Like $2 billion has been pumped into the company, and the only thing that I can think of that they have to show for this is the ELMS acquisition, which cost about $100 million, I think, and the Bollinger Motors acquisition, which I think was about $150 or $160 million. So where the hell has the rest of the money gone? Where has about $1.6 billion of shareholders' investment money gone? And this is a very easy question to answer when you look at the consolidated statements of operations. So when we scroll down to this, we can see it very clearly just here. Mullen have made $308,000 in sales, which happens to be the company's first ever sales, and from this they have a gross profit of $59,000. Not $59 million, $59,000 in 9 months. That's all they have got up until June 30th, $59,000 of gross income, which results in an $800 million loss for 9 months. Now, I've heard so many people say that it takes so much money to take an EV company and start producing vehicles and then the revenue will pour in and blah blah blah. The reality is, look at any of these other EV companies. It doesn't work as simple as that. They don't spend money and then suddenly when the revenue pours in, it balances itself out and they start making profit. The revenue comes in, the costs go up. When they actually start producing vehicles so that they can sell them and get revenue, all of these associated costs go up. It's a very long time before any company reaches that break-even level where they go from loss making to profit making. We're talking hundreds of thousands of vehicles before you get to that level. But it is the exact expenses that Mullen have, which is by far the most worrying. Look at the figures here. Look at their operating expenses. The majority of their operating expenses has gone on general and administrative. This doesn't produce vehicles. This is just general and administrative. Like, we can see this in the notes to the accounts. When you look at it, at what this consists of, it's very easy to see that this is not producing vehicles. Look at this, $52 million on professional fees. That doesn't produce any vehicles. $52 million on compensation to employees and management. Again, this doesn't produce anything. Depreciation, amortization, lease settlements, penalties, employee benefits, utilities, office expenses, regulatory fees. This has nothing to do with the day-to-day production expenses. But my favorite one here is advertising and promotions. Mullen have spent $4.7 million on advertising and promotions in the past 9 months, and I would love to see a breakdown of where that money has been spent exactly. Like, this is a company that makes a loss of $800 million in 9 months. They make a loss of $308 million in just 1 quarter. And then David Michery has said in his shareholders letter that he cannot understand how the stock is so far below its real value. Like, David has actually highlighted the fact that the company has cash balances of $227.4 million. $227 million doesn't even cover their costs for 3 months. The net loss for 3 months is $308 million. In my opinion, and this is not financial advice in any way, I think that everyone should make their own decisions when looking at this. When I look at this, I think Mullen is trading far above its actual value. I think when I look at the balance sheet, that if the company was liquidated in the morning and the assets were sold off, then these assets would cover the liabilities just about, and there may be some value to the stock. But give it another 3 months, another 3 months of expenses, then I cannot see the stock being worth much at all. But my favourite part of David Michery's letter to shareholders is something that I find hilarious. And that is this. I have personally recently purchased stock demonstrating my unwavering confidence in this company. And that is true. We can see it here in the Form 4. David Michery did acquire 102,000 shares at 98 cents per share last week, which means that David Michery spent $100,000 of his own money buying Mullen stock. But the most important thing about this is the fact that this is the very first time that David Michery has actually bought stock. Usually he gets stock for free as part of his performance bonuses, which is normal for CEOs of course, but he always sells his shares. So the reason I find it so funny that David Michery is highlighting the fact that he bought 100,000 shares is that only a few weeks ago, he was awarded 2.6 million shares for free and sold all 2.6 million. He was then awarded another 6.4 million shares just a couple of weeks later. But looking at just this one sale alone, this disposal alone meant that David Michery sold his shares to the value of $500,000 in June, and now in August he has bought back only 1/5 of that one sale. This does not demonstrate unwavering confidence in the company. In my opinion, this looks much more like a token gesture to gain a little support from shareholders who have lost 99% of their money on this stock. Now, let's not forget that David Michery has taken tens of millions of dollars out of Mullen Automotive in the form of salary and performance bonuses. The same performance that has seen the stock drop 99.9% in the past 18 months since going public. Retail shareholders have lost up to 99% of their money that they have invested in this company. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below and tell me what you think of David Michery. Should this man be running the company, or should David Michery resign and be held responsible for what has happened to MULN stock since it went public? If you have watched all the way through and enjoy my content, please hit the like button, it really helps the channel out a lot. And if you're new, hit the subscribe button and bell notification. Follow me on Twitter if you would like to see another MULN update soon. Nothing in my videos is financial advice in any way, and I am not a financial advisor. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next update.